Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 186 of the Sonic Movie Show, the only show about Sonic news, movie news, and Sonic movie news. But today is all about video game movie reviews. We do these every now and then on the Sonic Movie Show. My name is Ethan, and with me here to review the 2016 Angry Birds film is my friend Devin.
I'm really fun. Everyone says that about me.
One of the worst lines in that movie. We're one of the worst people on this planet, and I mean that as no offense.
Wow.
Yeah.
He says that about his co-host. Why am I even
Yep, that's
here?
your line. That's your line. Yeah.
The worst person.
I mean, listen, I'm not stupid. I know that these quotes are a way for you to project your true inner feelings that you're afraid to say directly to my face, and you say them through the vein of and the lens of Sonic, pretending they're things he says in video games. Right. Oh, I never seem to guess which game they're from because they're not from any of them. It's all you say. I mean, the part where you say it was like episode 12 or something where you said, "Hey, nice cock." That's when I started to know you were talking directly to me. Today, folks, we watched the 2016 film Angry Birds. It made
No. The Angry Birds movie,
right?
Full title.
The Angry Birds movie, which is similar to the Super Mario Brothers movie, I guess. To be fair, the Angry Birds movie. Although in our spreadsheet, I just wrote Angry Birds, so I guess I should change that later. This movie,
I had to triple check because when I watched it on Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
There was the Angry Birds movie. Then there was Angry Birds looking like a TV show or something, so I had to triple check. I Googled them, is it the Angry Birds movie? Yes, it was. I'm like, okay. We're good.
Question for you, Devin. Now, you may already know this. However, I'm just going to ask you anyway. This movie is second in a list of 5 video game movies, this being one of the 5 we've already reviewed here on the Sonic Movie Show, all in the year of 2016. Can you guess what the other 4 are? Impromptu quiz. Don't cheat.
One of them's a Resident Evil movie, right? One of the Resident Evils was 2016, I think.
You going to lock that in?
Why is it always a game show?
You going to lock that in?
Yes, sure.
No,
sure.
Incorrect. The answers are Ratchet and Clank, Angry Birds,
Warcraft,
and Assassin's Creed, and then Kingsley, Final Fantasy 15.
Dude, we had bangers in 2016.
We had movies.
We had bangers.
Yeah, these are all very mid movies. Spoilers on my thoughts on Angry
We should rank the 2016 all the 2016 movies. Power rank them. Be like, if we go back in time and we tell you to see one video game movie that came out in 2016, which one would it be? You know?
Well, there are 3 others in 2016. There is the 4th and final Persona 3 movie, which was in the beginning of the year.
Well, we'll get to that.
Then there was
at some
Dead
point.
Rising Endgame. Then all the movies I mentioned. And then Corpse Party Book of Shadows, the sequel to your last pick on thing.
I didn't know that there was a sequel to it. Maybe that makes me
They're a year apart.
Make me feel better.
They're a year apart,
me feel
though.
better. Maybe they filmed back to back, filmed in one session, maybe.
We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, folks, here on the Sonic Movie Show, we like to review video game movies. Today is the Angry Birds movie.
Yes.
And we do this because we love video games and we love movies. And you know what? Not a lot of people like these video game movies. Can you believe that? Movies that are adaptations on video games themselves or the concepts that they have. I don't want to say that, actually. I take that back because then we'd be reviewing pixels and shit. They're either based directly on a video game or the general franchise. We'll say that. And I would say Angry Birds is in that vein because I guess they're all just the apps and they're all just basically
Is this the first mobile game one we've done, though? I'm trying to think. I don't think we've done a mobile game one.
Probably. Looking at, I guess...
Unless you count a Pokemon as a Game Boy, I guess, is mobile and the handheld.
Yeah, and I guess, there's
whatever.
Sonic mobile apps. You can play Doom on your iPhone.
An original IP that was...
Yeah, definitely.
We haven't watched a Flappy Bird movie that I can remember.
Yet. Haven't watched it yet. Yeah.
Is there a Flappy Bird movie?
No. Remember that app? No. The dude was so I don't know, embarrassed or ashamed that app, this game, was making so much money that he delisted it. Remember that? It was a big thing.
Yeah.
People were, because it was a game you paid $1 for, and he was making millions of dollars. And he said, I didn't want any of this. And he said, I'm taking it down. Like, he had a mental health crisis over being rich
Oh
off of
no.
a game. Yeah.
I guess it could be a shock of like he probably made that as what like a one-off fun thing to
Right.
mess around in. He goes to bed one night and he wakes up and all of a sudden he has 500K in his bank account, his
Yeah.
PayPal or whatever that's attached to,
Just a giant
which I'm
Apple
sure he paid
check
taxes
and
on
a
or
Google
whatever.
check saying, here's your money. We took 30%.
I can see how
You're a
that could be
millionaire.
stressful or like a shocking experience of being
I would want
like,
more.
oh my god.
I know eat the rich,
You want
but
more?
like I would still want more money. You know what I mean? I'm allowed to want more money.
Well, maybe that's what he was afraid of. You know,
Of my
too
hunger.
woke now. He was
Yeah.
the woke mob outside his home demanding he give out his Flappy Bird money.
Give us the Flappy Bird. Maybe I'm making this up. I'm pretty sure he was from like China or somewhere too, because like he had to use like translation services or something. Maybe I'm making that up, but that's what I thought I remember. But this is definitely indeed the first mobile game that we've reviewed a movie version based off of, and I hesitate to think of others that exist because the mobile gaming space isn't really rich on IP that isn't already other things. Like I guess there's Candy
Right.
Crush, right? And then there's like Cut the Rope and you know and the
Doodle Jump
Jumps.
was
Yeah.
yeah.
But like for the most part, it's horny anime games that are multimedia properties that are these gotcha games, and then a Marvel Puzzle Quest. You know what I mean? Like there's just a couple things.
I'm not gonna lie, I've been tempted to try out one of the gotcha games, but I'm afraid it's gonna like actually be a virus. But it's not gonna be that much of a gotcha, right? It's gonna be like this game just has a lot of you have to pay a lot of money, right?
I will say
to, like,
this.
actually do anything in it?
So,
Or is it gotcha and just as like titties? Gotcha.
I've
like
played,
what's the level of gotcha?
Well, so gotcha is GACHA. If you didn't know that, folks out there, not gotchas and I've got you. Said I tricked you.
Oh.
Yeah, it's GACHA,
You got me.
and that's the
yeah,
term.
you got me.
Pretty sure that term comes from those not gumball machines, but those capsule machines. I'm pretty sure that's what
Yeah.
that stands for. So you don't know what you're getting, but you know what you could be getting because here's all of the options.
The original loot box.
In a sense. I've played one extensively, and I've said it here on the show before, and that's Fire Emblem Heroes. And boy, is that some G-rated porniness. Sometimes I think I remember saying like, oh, I gotta show you some of my anime girls I have on that Fire Emblem because I'm like, I can't believe this is a Nintendo game. All these variant costumes on these characters. I will say this. I haven't played that in a long time. I stuck with the game because the strategy RPG combat was actually fun. It was a fun, like, Fire Emblem games are fun enough, but I feel like they struggle with too few characters that specialize in certain things, and since there's permadeath, it's easy to lose characters, and then certain aspects on the maps are gone. Like, I remember only archers can use the artillery thing, and at this map in the game, at the stage in the game, you only have one archer, so like if he die, you know what I mean, like, and the maps are way too big and the game's just a little bit too complex to really have that chess like feeling. But like Fire Emblem Heroes is like a 6x8 grid if I remember correctly, and units move 2 spaces or 1 space if they have heavy armor, or 3 spaces if they're on a horse. So it's very easy to actually plan out turns and not just wing it. I say all this like
Right.
I actually enjoyed that game more than the actual Fire Emblem game, so I stuck with it a lot. But it is a very money hungry game. So, but these all are. There was the creator of Final Fantasy made like he left Square like two decades ago, and at some point in the past decade, started a company called Cygames. Maybe I'm wrong on this. And started a mobile game called Grand Blue Fantasy. And I was interested in that because at one point or another, there was an action RPG being worked on by Platinum Games. And I saw a trailer for that, and I'm like, wow, this looks really cool. I kind of want to get into this. I will buy this when this comes out. And, you know, I'm kind of excited. Maybe I'll download this game, and because it's the characters that are in there, I'll get to know them a little better. Only in Japan. You can't play that game in America. So, like, and I remember trying a couple others being like, I'm told these are really great mobile RPGs, but no, they're basically just The draw, if you ever watch trailers for any of these, especially I see Twitter ads for some of them sometimes based off the other kinds of games and stuff I have followed on Twitter and view and stuff. The draw, because there's a lot of like Final Fantasy ones of these, the draw is on like quintuple digit damage numbers and this and that. Like it's just so blown up to make it look like you're doing so well, but it's like still one or two hits is all that matters types of things. So I never found them any interesting. But if you do ever get into them, I will say I at least enjoyed the combat of Fire Emblem Heroes.
Well, there's the one I always see on Reddit, which is, and they even like, because on the Reddit ads sometimes look like actual like posts, like as if you were following like a specific subreddit. So it's a little confusing sometimes. But there's one that always pops up, and one time they were like, they made fun of it, like, "Yep, you've probably seen this one before," like as like their title of it. So at least they have a sense of humor about it. But it's a zombie game, right? And I feel like I've seen the same. I forget the name of the game. That's how bad the advertising is, because I don't remember the name of the game.
I feel like a lot of them are generic names too.
But SEO. It's always like you're a one soldier and you're like falling back, and it's like a bridge or something, an endless bridge, and there's zombies coming down, and you got to shoot the barrels, and you can maybe get bigger guns or more soldiers. I'm like, oh, that could be a fun thing. But then I'll see that same game title, whatever it is,
and it's a different
and it'll be
style
like
of gameplay. I get those ads on like, Warzone all the time, Warzone.com on the mobile app. I see those.
Yeah. And I want to try it because I'm like, I actually would legit try out
Don't do that.
The survival game.
However,
but I'm not going to.
So if you've seen the ads, I've seen ads for those, what you're describing. I've seen ads where it's like you're moving left and right and shooting, and like, oh, you can, there's multipliers, and then there's extra troops.
Right.
And then I've seen the ones where it's like, oh, I'm stuck in this room, and then there's treasure here, and
you have
lava,
to pull
and you pull the things.
And
I've seen the ones where it's like, I'm standing on this tower, and there's a number under my ass, and there's this other tower with all these other rooms, and there's numbers under them, and you just make sure you pick one that's lower, and then number one, these ads purposely fail to make you frustrated and be like, well, I can do that. That's the trick. Just letting you know, if you didn't know that, they fail on purpose to make you want to know what it looks like when you do well, and it's so easy to do well. There is a game, I forget who made it, and it sounded like it was just someone random, but they made something before, and I forget what they made. So I'm like, okay, this is a little bit more legit. Made a game on Switch called, I think the full title is like, yeah, so you want to play one of those games, huh? Well, here you go. It's like the full title. And they made a game that's all of those types of things, but it's actually what those games are. So I haven't seen anyone really play it. I've seen it pop up on Twitter a lot as people being like, wow, they made it, and like I got it, and it's like $1 or whatever. It's actually real. I forget who makes it. But yeah, so like if you actually want to play one of those games, get it on the Switch. There you go. Maybe it's on, Steam and stuff too. But yeah, Angry Birds is not like that though. Angry Birds, if you remember, back in like 2009, you might have played on an iPod Touch. I played on my iPhone 3GS.
Yeah,
and then my iPhone 4. That was just a game you bought for like $1 or $2, whatever it was, $3 maybe, and you played it, and it had some puzzles in it, and then that was it. And eventually they offered in a way for you to pay to have levels beaten for you, I think, because there was the giant eagle, and I think that was something.
Or I think you unlocked, or you could pay for like special like abilities or whatever, because there's different types of birds.
Adding to it, and I feel like that's where monetization started. And then they had made multiple sequels. There was Angry Birds Seasons, which was just another. Basically, it was like, hey, you're just gonna buy another game because we want $3 more, which is fair. I guess. Didn't really add much to it. Then there was Angry Birds Space, which was actually felt like a sequel because it had like more mechanics to it. But then there was just lots of skins like Star Wars and Transformers, and they tried to make puzzle games and this and that and blah, blah, blah.
I think I saw like Angry Birds Star Wars like gummies or something at Walmart in 2010. I'm sure. You know, it's something like that.
They exploded. I've mentioned my ire on Rovio, the Finnish company that makes Angry Birds, and now the Sega subsidiary. I think that's how you would call her, a sub-company.
So you can't trash them too much.
I can't anymore, not too much. But I just remember the hubris on them saying that the Angry Birds is bigger than Mario. Yeah, just because the App Store exploded. But
I appreciate having pride in your product, but come on now, you gotta you could have said like Doodle Jump and been like, okay, sure.
Right.
You
Right.
know.
Hey, you could have even said Sonic, and I might have been like, maybe, because at that point there weren't really that many good
Right.
Sonic games as opposed
But
and
just
like
like
coming out
we're the best,
recently.
we're the most iconic mobile game
Yeah,
characters.
ever.
Okay,
You know what I
sure.
mean? And I would say
Sure.
yes. And I would still say yes, besides maybe the Candy Beans and Candy Crush. You know what I mean at this
Are they
point.
are they
But
characters? I don't even know.
they're an iconic look. You know what I
Right.
mean? That app icon. Um and yeah, they became free to play and stuff. I don't really I haven't touched them literally since like 2011 at the latest maybe. But yes, and for whatever reason, later than they probably should have, they decided, hey, let's try to get someone to make an Angry Birds movie. Sony Pictures is the animation house for this, but I guess Rovio also. It's weird because we've seen like Nintendo Pictures, and then there was the Pokemon one, and then we've seen like the Sonic or the Sega Pictures, like opening things in the movies and whatnot. And they always say like Pictures, but for this movie it said Rovio Animation, which got me confused for a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, I doubt this game company is able to do this. Just like, unless you hired a whole bunch of people, you know what I mean? I don't think you were able to do this. So Sony was obviously involved, but I'm pretty sure it was Sony, just Sony Animation did it. And like, obviously Rovio was just involved because it's their property. And, maybe they were a little bit hands-on, who knows? We could probably Google it, but we're not. Yeah. So
I just looked, by the way, just on the App Store, just Angry Birds, just searching, just to see like what's still available. I just see Angry Birds 2 is the most popular one. Editor's Choice. There's Angry Birds Friends. There's Angry Birds Transformers. Angry Birds Journey. There's Bad Piggies, which looks like you're just the pigs. You have Red's First Flight. The classic is back. It says 99 cents. Angry Birds Dream, which is like a bubble puzzle game version. Angry Birds Evolution looks like a XCOM looking thing. I don't know. Epic Collected Battle RPG. Angry Birds Pop. Yeah, a bunch of Angry Birds AR. That's interesting. But yeah, so there's been a whole bunch. Then you have Bowmasters.
Yeah.
So
interesting. Have you played Angry Birds? Like you said.
Yeah, I had it on the iPod Touch. At least one of them. I couldn't tell you what one. It's been so long. I remember generally enjoying them. I mean, I've never really been a big mobile game person. Like, even the games that I would say I love, I would play maybe 5 to 10 hours in totality. The one Godzilla one, I jump back in every like 6 months, and maybe I'll just play till I feel like I got my
Can I ask you a quick question about
use
that?
out of it. Yeah.
Is that a game where you're like randomly drawing new monsters or alternate versions?
So basically, you have like a party, so you can pick 6 dudes, 6 kaiju, and then you're facing off against other people. You have a hero that's one of the kaiju, and yeah, it's kind of random.
Is there like a loot box on how you get them?
How
you can unlock new ones?
You basically each level up, you get one, and then if you buy the battle pass, which is usually like $3 or whatever, for every level up, you get 2 extra ones. So, and usually those are more like higher rarities. So then you can get, and there's guarantee ones that like, hey, if you hit level 25, you get Ultraman or whatever's in season. So, which it's been fun when like the new movies come out. They did one for like Kamen Rider, so that was cool. Where they had, hey, you can grind for Shin Kamen Rider. I didn't play it during then. Last one I played was right after. I want to say it back in like April was the last time I played.
You know what they should have done?
Just because I was getting. It's a grind, but it's. I don't think you need to pay in it really though to have fun. Like you easily could do a couple hours.
I guess my
cool.
one question is there any point where you can pay to then randomly get one type of thing?
There is
that
like
would be a gotcha
every
game
day
if you wanted. If
well,
you
yeah.
that
Oh, I mean, there's definitely that kind of elements to it. Where there's a shop where like if you have the battle pass, you have access to certain randomize every day they change, and they'll be like, yeah. This thing guarantees you Ultraman. So if you want Ultraman, as soon as it comes out, you can get Ultraman.
You know the collaboration they should have done with that though? At the same time when it was like a year later after the Godzilla vs. Kong and Warzone had it, they should just have Giant Call of Duty Man as a guy.
That'd be sick. And yeah, I could have Ghost. I could have Ghost. And he's this huge.
He's
Hell
not
yeah.
on the cover of Modern Warfare 3. Are you upset?
Dude, they did him. They've been shitting on my dog for years. I don't know. I don't get it. So
Anyway, back in the era of 2009, I played it a little bit mainly because it was kind of fun. But like as far as puzzle games go, I felt it was too random reliant. Like the physics on it were a little bit too loose to really feel consistent over. So I never really engaged with it on like, I definitely can, 3-star.
It wasn't like too much of a skill. It was more of a puzzle game in the sense that like, well, 1 out of 3 of these shots, if it hits here, that building will fall.
Yeah.
I think it adds to the replayability of it where like, I figured out this puzzle. I just need to get maybe bit of a luckier bounce on it for sure.
But I had played way more of a game that deserves its own movie. Epic Games' own Infinity Blade and Infinity Blade 2 and Infinity Blade 3. Oh man, those are the most fun Punch-Out clones on the iPad and the iPhone that ever existed, and you can no longer get them because none of Epic Games' stuff is on iPhones. And also when Apple updated, that's the thing too with iPhone app mobile game app preservation. Obviously, when they update, an app like Angry Birds, that old version is gone unless you never update and you jailbreak your phone and back it up online. It's gone, so to speak. But then also too, once iPhones started to be 64-bit and they made a mandate that all apps must be 64-bit, 32-bit apps won't work on these iPhones anymore. A lot of games got lost. And I think those Infinity Blade games were some of them. And I bet like old versions of Angry Birds would have been lost if they weren't updated. So mobile games, that's why I like video game preservation stuff. But like mobile games, I'm like, it's so ephemeral. It's so ephemeral. It's like if Steam was like, every year there's a new Steam and like old apps like look shitty on new Steam and you really want new Steam every year. It's a really bad analogy, but like if a digital only marketplace like constantly was like, I don't care about something that came out 3 months ago, it goes away now.
Gotta let the past die.
I know.
What I mean?
But okay.
You can be when you're 75, you can tell your grandchildren, I remember when I played Angry Birds on this device called the iPod Touch. Oh my god. We're gonna get bullied. Deservingly so, but whatever.
Then they'll be on like Fortnite 27 and we'll be like, Angry Birds was on my phone. What the fuck you talking about, Grandpa? A phone?
What's a phone? They're like, what is that?
God.
That's true. There is a possibility that there's some type of device that we haven't conceptually realized yet in 50 years.
Chip in the back of our brains.
You get when your kid's born, you get circumcised and a chip in the back of your head. No questions asked.
No questions asked. And you don't actually get to choice either. They will circumcise the child and they will put a brain
we already
in
did it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I told you not to. Oh, must have been a miscommunication. Whoopsies.
You signed a consent form.
It was on page 18.
Yeah.
It was on page 18, fine print. Yeah.
And like you turn to page 18 and it just says, it's just big black text, circumcision, brain chip. It's like the only 3 words on the 4 words on
and knowing our luck, the brain chip will have like a personalized AI in it, and it's just fucking Elon Musk for everybody.
Of
and it was
course,
just
of course.
Yeah.
Epic
and he'll be long dead. He'll be long dead, but like his soul will live on.
God.
Yeah.
I want to kick his ass, allegedly. You know what I don't want to kick the ass of? The creators of the Angry Birds movie, because I think that they tried. Let's talk about this movie, Devin. Mm-hmm. This was on your list of your picks.
Or my
draft. It is my
yep.
counter pick of yours. So I'm going to be a little bit harsher because I want to not lose any points here. And I want to gain some points by doing this. I will just go off the bat because it's my counter pick and because I'm already speaking, so I will continue to talk. Mm-hmm. I think this movie is aggressively fine. I think that I am surprised that it isn't as obnoxious with the modern pop music throw-ins and the types that like they literally play music that straight up says the mood or feeling of the scene so that you know for a fact the man is sad, and they do that in this movie. But like I'm surprised it's not as much. I'm surprised that the Hollywood celebrities that are voicing these animated characters, which is a very DreamWorks thing to do, which is not DreamWorks, this is Sony, but still, in the Shrek vein, that started any
The
movie, any
pinnacle.
animated movie that isn't like Pixar or straight Disney will just advertise on the comedians that are in this movie and the characters that they're playing. I'm surprised that there wasn't. I mean, there was Jason Sudeikis, there was Josh Gad, there was Keegan Michael Key, there was what's his name who plays Barry in the show
Sean
Barry.
Bean. Sean Bean's in it too.
Yeah, but I'm surprised
Which
it's not as aggressive in trying to make them as so funny and ends up being obnoxious as a lot of DreamWorks movies often do. I will say that as a whole, the movie feels like its focus was really trying to build up to something that then just kind of quickly happens. And then it feels like the third act almost could have been an entire movie, and maybe it should have been separated out more. I feel like acts 1 and 2 could have been one act, and then you split act 3 into 2 acts. I feel like the Peter Dinklage inclusion was for a very tropey and very generic, we've seen this before type of character. He's the hero. We haven't seen him in forever. Oh, and he's fat and out of shape, and but he still thinks he's got the stuff, but he's a washout, type of person.
Yeah, we've definitely. I think honestly, it's like Ratchet and Clank a little bit with that, where
Very
maybe not in
much
the same
so.
way, but just like he isn't
Very
what you
similar
think
to
he
Quark,
is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I guess just overall, my 2 words to it is it's aggressively fine. How about you? What'd you think about the movie?
yeah. I mean, I think I've said it before multiple times. Every time we've gone through our list of movies in our draft, back in what was that 152 was when we first did the draft there, and
53?
153.
You'll
I remember I
see
picked
it,
this one.
folks out there.
I picked this one. I know we both were kind of avoiding it, but at the time I felt like this was the safest pick I could make with how many movies were left because of just, hey, I've seen like a trailer for this at some point. At worst, it'll just be boring, I'm hoping, and then at best, maybe it's a gem and actually it's funny or something like that. So going in, I was like, I'm hoping this is just kind of, like you said, maybe not aggressively, but I'm like, hope at the very least this is fine. And yeah, I came away with it generally enjoying it. I don't think I'm the target audience, obviously. But I wasn't like bored really. Like I feel like it kept a decent pace. I did not like our main character. I did not like Red. I found him kind of annoying. If anything, I liked what's his name, Chuck there, the speedy guy. I thought he was the best character in my opinion. I wanted more of him. So anytime he was on camera or whatever and speaking, I'm like, yes. Why weren't you the main character? Animation I thought was pretty solid for 2016. It's not a
Looks better than Ratchet
level
and Clank,
of
for sure.
looks better than
But
Ratchet and Clank. It's not I almost said Insomniac. God damn it, Illumination. With at the time I think Illumination didn't.
I forget
what's
which
he call it?
Despicable Me or Minions was around.
But one of those was
but
out. Minions was
yeah.
out at some point. So I feel like that's like in terms of just animation like quality. I feel like that was at this time period like the bar, or at least like what you wanted to achieve. And I feel like it has that kind of style, but it has its own unique style. It felt better than like an animated cartoon you might see on Nickelodeon.
Sure.
Which was I was worried about going in. I'm like, hey, I remember seeing trailers for it, but it's been 6-7 years now, so maybe it's not gonna look as good. But overall, I just felt I kind of agree with what you said, where I didn't really care for like the first 2 acts. I did like the third act and thought it was fun. There's some nods to the games that even I remember. I must have played more than I thought I did because I was like, oh yeah, that does happen in the game, or there is this character, or he has this power or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The humor was mostly missed for me. There were some things I thought were funny.
Same.
It was actually a little bit more raunchier than I thought it was going to be too at moments. I was
think
like,
that's the style of, again, it's not DreamWorks, but like those types of animated movies where they really want to make sure that they throw out a damn or an ass or a crap, for the adults, but like also like because of they the kids are going to see the movie, but both parents are going to go because it has Jason Sudeikis and it has Josh Gad, like that type of thing. So like, I always find them that type of adult-ish humor, like nods to adult-ish humor, kind of a little tacky in animated films that are meant for children.
It's hard to pull off.
It's hard to pull off. I'm not against it.
I think Madagascar is a good. I think Shrek is the best example. Obviously,
yes.
Shrek is pinnacle.
At least
and
the
then
first two.
I would say Madagascar had that too, where I think it was pretty good at finding that balance of, hey, this joke might go over the head of a kid, but he says it in a funny way, so a kid might laugh still.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And I think there's also a difference between alluding to two people having sex, which is something every adult knows, and most children know too, as an adult type of joke, or as opposed to like a reference to something that only adults would know, like an artist, a painting, that like I just popped up in my head, but like in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, Chris Pratt says, it's like a Polly Pollux painting or whatever the artist name is, and like that went over my head until someone said, oh yeah, that's an artist, and it's basically like throwing a bunch of paint on the walls or on the thing, like it's very dotty, very much like, oh, that went over my head. Those types of references, like adults.
Or in Madagascar, I think I don't remember who finds it, but there's the volleyball or whatever from Castaway.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like little stuff like that, which is fine. Yeah, not too many references in this, but definitely has some raunchier jokes I don't think really landed for me, or I was like, that felt forced. So the comedy felt forced. Some of the dialogue felt forced. But I wasn't like I said, I feel like I was generally entertained. It's only an hour and a half, which already gets a 1 star from me. Also, it had Black Sabbath in it, which I was not expecting to going in there be any sort of metal or rock going into it. I honestly thought it was just going to be like your classic just fantasy sounding music with 1 or 2 pop songs. There's a lot of more music in this than I was expecting. But yeah, I kind of agree with you, where it's like, it's just kind of fine. It's definitely
so that's settled. It's an
interesting.
That's our tier ranking. No. I will say we are a little bit different on one thing. I hate Chuck. And I actually did not mind Red a lot. I actually felt
Red is
maybe
Red
this
to
is
me,
the shitty version of me that exists, but there's plenty of times where I'm like, I am so annoyed with people around me. Maybe it's because where I've worked for the past like 7 years, where I'm like, I want you to feel bad for inconveniencing me, and I'm going to have the air about me that I'm like, it's the shitty people who are like, man, I'm George Costanza, or like, oh, I hate, like the people that are like, oh, I am this misanthropic, shitty person. They relate to that, but like that's annoying and eye roll inducing when someone really feels like they are like that. Like, hey, maybe you're just a bad guy, you know what I mean? But like, there's definitely elements of that where I'm like, yeah, it's a little bit like me. I can be like that. It's not good.
See, I'm just like
and I hated that Roadrunner ass ripoff wannabe. Annoying.
I just found him much more, I guess, wholesome compared to everyone else. I mean, I liked the bomb guy too. I liked everyone but him, honestly. Like, he had a couple good moments, but I feel like he shouldn't have been redeemed at all because was an asshole, and he blames it all on bullying.
Yeah,
he gets one thing right. He has like 10 things wrong. He gets one thing right, and of course it's. I don't know. I just feel like he's being rewarded for being an ass, and that's what I don't like in this movie. I'm like, the most asshole guy turns into basically king, and they're like, "Yep, you're right. You saved the city." I'm like, "Fuck off!"
This movie has 2 awful things that it wants to tell you are the vindicated reasons, the justified reasons for the good outcomes. Number 1, that you being picked on means it's okay for you to be an douchebag, and also that your naturally born xenophobia is correct and is the reason why you're going to save your people from colonialism. Because
that's what it was. It was colonialism, slowly but surely.
And it was xenophobia, because it was much like, these people don't have feathers. I think it was like when they're at they're first introduced or whatever, and they're sitting down eating, and Red's like, these people don't have feathers. Something about this doesn't sit right with me. And it's like, that's just racism. You know what I mean? But like, I get it. You're suspicious because we the writers of this story.
But his main motive is because his house got destroyed. It's like, bro,
which is fair.
There's the huge ass island. You can build it anywhere else, and clearly
his property got destroyed, and they didn't even bother to even acknowledge it, even remotely.
Or the one time the other thing is that Bombo and Chuck, whatever his name is, Bomb Man and Chuck, were trying to be friendly with him and get to know him, and every time he's like, fuck off. But then he's like, I'm sad, I'm lonely. Like, yeah, bro, you literally had two people trying to be your friend, and you're fucking throwing him off.
He's a complicated guy, we all can't be a My Little Pony or a Care Bear, you know what I mean? Where we have one personality trait. I just
thought it was funny that he lives on the very edge, like a rust base.
Said it took him 5 years to build that. Like, that sucks. But like, they built it in like an hour. The end of the movie. So
also, like, I get like the whole movie's Angry Birds, and I wasn't sure going in what that I liked it more when he's like, we all got to get angry about this, and like I'm like, okay, that fits with the movie title, whatever. But like, his ability is him just having a loose like cannon, and he compensates by just being like letting every train of thought out that's in an asshole way instead of like just ignoring it. He's like, nope. Like, he literally beats up the scarecrow looking thing or whatever that was, the Vulcan sign.
Yeah. Just because
he couldn't help
he
himself.
wanted to. Yeah. That joke did not land for me. I will say, I'll throw it out there, the two jokes that did land for me, I do find it funny whenever this movie reminds us that the little bird calls him daddy. I just find that funny. And then I
was pretty fucked up. I thought it killed him. Like, it was like at the very beginning.
Especially because the crack happens off screen. I thought that was their way of saying that, like, he just killed them. That, and then the pissing into the Lake of Wisdom, I thought that really hit for the length of time that it hit as well.
And I was surprised. I think that's the first time I've seen piss in an animated movie, like, especially at least for that long. It was like a good minute.
No, Mike Wazowski definitely pees for 3 minutes in Monsters, Inc. Just straight at the camera too, or maybe that was the version I looked up.
Yeah. Did you find it on a different site? Possibly?
Yeah, I found it on X.com.
X.com.
Where everyone goes to find full uploads of movies. Yeah, only those two jokes really landed with me. As far as the video game kind of references that they do to the property that they're based off of, it's pretty light. Really, it's just.
There was some.
It's like,
say that there's that
3
one
stars, and then there's the slingshot at the end, in the third act.
Well, there was a couple of shots too, like where they kind of showed it, like if you were playing the game, like when they were being slingshotted into the city, like they showed like the side view, like it does in the game. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that whole thing was meant to be like, here's the actual game, part.
Yeah.
But again, we've talked in the past, like, you don't need to fully reference moments in the games or be based on a game in order to be a good video game movie. In fact, all the movies in our S rank are not that at all. They're just the vibes and style of the property that, is then translated into a movie.
But there's been ones that have completely ignored it, and then it didn't.
And then been bad. Or just boring.
Yeah. So I feel like for this, I'll give them credit for at least being like, no, we want to make an emphasis. Like, they could have easily just never done the slingshot thing. In this era, that wouldn't have surprised me if they just never. Like, I was honestly going into this like, how much of the slingshotting and all that is there actually going to be? I thought it was going to be a one-time joke. Like, they showed it, like, I think halfway through, where they showed him, the pigs showed them it. I thought that was going to be it. So I was surprised when they're like, no, we're doing an assault on the city, and we're going to do the slingshot and see everyone's power. So I was like, okay, I'll give them credit for at least being like, no, we want to show like the core elements of the game and the characters of the game, of their abilities in it, as opposed to what we've seen in other movies, even ones we've liked. But I still think I got to give them credit for at least trying it. Because some of our video game movies don't try it, and even the ones we've liked, like I said, but we've critiqued them where we're like, oh, we wish the Doom movie maybe did more of the first-person stuff.
Yep. That's the best part of that movie.
Or Resident Evil, maybe if
being anything like Resident Evil.
Leon, being more like Resident Evil. I will say, Angry Birds specifically
really, really is popular with young kids that grew up with an iPhone or an iPod Touch or the iPad or the Amazon tablet, mobile game. Basically, kids who grew up playing video games that were not on a Nintendo handheld, ravenous for the Angry Birds. And I feel like they would be very let down if they didn't do the slingshot stuff at the end, to be fair. I feel like that was almost a requirement, just to be considered valid in the eyes of their target audience. But I am with you on everything else that you said. Just again, going to like the idea of the first two acts, I feel like being too long. It felt too long because like it felt like the movie was really trying to have Red be outcasted left and right and blah blah blah, and he needs to prove himself, and like the act of him being proven right in the eyes of the community and him actually doing something to do that, to actually get that acknowledgement for what this movie starts to set up, because I don't think this is what this movie should have been, but for what this movie begins to set up, should have been what the third act's climax would have been, of him finally proving that he is right, and he maybe in a way where he doesn't hold it against him because he's grown as a person. He's not always angry, just a little bit angry. So just to have it all just happen regardless of what he does, and for people to be like, you were right, hat in hand, literally. Keegan-Michael Key holds his hat in his hand and said, what are we going to do now? And everyone's like, you're in charge because you didn't like them. And we did. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like he earned that. And like, yes.
Yeah, it felt like two conflicting thoughts more than it felt like a reason to, like, he could have been right in that scenario, but it doesn't, to me, like, they kept setting up the first chunk as being like, he's in anger management because he's been clearly having these issues around his community, and the community is kind of sick of his bullshit and telling him to, like, you need to fix this or else you're done. You're totally going to be cast away. And that, he never like solves his anger really, and I feel like it's a weird way to like set that up.
I think what they were trying to say, and I don't know what other movie has done this too, maybe Inside Out, where it's like, you don't need being happy all the time is not good for you. Maybe not like that, but it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel this or that, because they throw it away at the very beginning that everyone's happy here but him type of thing. They didn't really handle that all that well. I just think that this movie needed to be more like the pigs stealing all the eggs should have happened at the end of Act 1. Act 2 becomes an adventure to get to the island and begin, and then Act 3 is saving the day. That's a more traditional hero's journey type of story, but this story is more of, again, him versus the community, like you said. Literally, there's a court. It literally says Red versus Birds, meaning all of them. That's a lawsuit that was a court case for that. That is like that's the thesis, so to speak. That's the point of what they were trying to go for. And then to have that kind of just be so swept under the rug, like, yeah, you're right, now what do we do next? You know what I mean? Then you have another movie there, and just not much there to do what, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I didn't really like the journey to the bald eagle too much, because I was like,
it's just like that, and then it's over. Anyone could have done that because of how
really
quick
involved.
That they did it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to shout over you.
And also, and I was just gonna say too, it's like, oh, no one's seen him in forever, or like to the point where people even think he doesn't exist. And the island's not that big, and I'm not gonna critique it too much because, like, whatever, it's fantasy. How far distance is doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But I just kind of wish they, like, I don't know, or maybe like done something different with that character, or not have him in it at all.
He wasn't even in hiding.
Like
you know what I mean? He wasn't really hiding. He was just there.
If you looked for it, and like, yeah, they like had a struggle to get there, but it didn't seem like they were doing anything unique. It wasn't like we needed a special key to a secret door kind of thing, to compare it to like a fantasy like role playing game or something, where like the adventurer has to be able to do something that the average person can't do. Like, if everyone knows, oh, he's near the whatever pond, we just don't go there because reasons. That doesn't
Yeah.
I don't know, it just doesn't sell it too much enough to me. So I'm just kind of like about that whole part too. Um, but I don't know.
My
But yeah,
headset
I don't
died.
know. I just didn't really buy his like you said, swept under the rug of, oh, I'm not like a cast out anymore. I am now welcome to this community. Oh, and you're also like, we basically will do whatever you say. Thought that was a little, I don't know. It's a kids movie, so I get it. Some things have to be uh watered down, or just like the characters say something and you just have to believe it and go with it sometimes. And yeah, I just didn't care for the eagle thing just because it felt like anyone could just do that at any point.
Yep.
Just wish they created more of a reason that they could either get to where their locate that the eagle's location is, that no other people can get. Maybe they find something. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
But
It felt like it was too much of a, well, if we really drag out the process of getting there, then that means that A, we're taking away time from the movie, but also we now have to make this mean something more than what it ends up being. You know what I mean? Like, because like the whole point that they want is not that the eagle is the one that's just going to solve everything. You know, Peter Dinklage isn't just going to save the day, um, because they don't want that. So like they need, but at the same, it felt just honestly like, why even bother? Besides the fact that he is in the games, you know, as an instant win button. You know what I mean? Like they didn't really need him, like literally at all. And like they even joke this at the end, but they don't get. I don't think that means you get away with it. He didn't even do any for them in terms of teaching them anything. They're just like, well, we're just gonna have to do it ourselves, I guess. We already were technically because we were taking the initiative to do something at all, but like I guess we're just gonna have to
right,
continue. As then by the time they get
yeah,
back, then then the pigs have begun to steal everything. So um, yeah,
yeah. I think what they could have done is just either combined that or just got rid of one of them and have the pigs arrive within the first 25 minutes of the film, and immediately. And I also don't think they should have done the whole tricking, like, oh, there's actually all these pigs on the ship. Like, I feel like it'd have been more scarier, because I feel like we all knew already when they arrived what they were going to be. I feel like
yeah,
we don't need to like show the audience that they're mischievous or they're going to trick them. Oops, sorry.
that's okay.
Mickey's yelling at
He wants some
something.
eggs too.
Yeah. My God, he's so loud. Hold up. All right. As I was saying, it's timed it perfectly. No, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, have them come and like maybe immediately start like, I don't know, taking resources in some way, like at night or something. Like, hey, they do the party thing or whatever when they first get there. Then at night, like they're all grabbing their eggs in their sleep, and they wake up the next day. Where'd the eggs go? Oh, and the ship's gone. Um, Grant, I'm not a Hollywood writer. And no one's a Hollywood writer now because we're on strike.
We
But we're on strike.
okay.
No, I was just gonna say that I feel like, I don't know. They could have. There's other things where they decide like, hey, we'll just let this go and that's fine. But then for something like that, I feel like would have been more, I guess, quote unquote, believable, or easier to understand if like the pigs are bad guys. People have played the games. I think it's okay to make that stretch real quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they have them arrive, have them steal shit right away, make them the enemies. Yep. Maybe they have to learn. Maybe the second act could have been more of like finding where they live or something. Like, how do they get there? They just came from that way. Like, okay, I want maybe more of that. Red, since he's casted out or whatever, is seen as not part of the society. Maybe they send him to go find the
That's
island.
what I thought
it
was going to be. Like it was going to be the three main birds being sent to go do this, and not what it was. Yeah.
And they come back, and then whatever. But I get it. I mean, it's a kids movie too, so I'm not trying to be too hard on the plot and like the quote unquote plot holes and character development and whatnot. I know we've talked about it before on this show with like more kids movies that sometimes the character has to say explicitly the reasonings for doing things, and they'll be like, yes, I'm a bad guy, or yes, I am angry all the time, or yes, I am the judge and whatever,
and
you know.
yes, I'm the Joker, baby. Yeah, that type of stuff.
I'm the Joker, baby. But yeah, I mean,
yeah.
At least it was an hour and a half, and I feel like it didn't go on. It went on a little long, but it wasn't like unbearably long where I'm like, okay, I'm sick of this. Like it kept at least moving. By the way, the beginning reminded me a little bit of the beginning of the Sonic movie, and I'm like, oh, Sonic movie steal this? Because he's like running around.
Yep.
He has an item.
Yeah.
Granted, he's making a delivery. And someone dies. Almost.
Yeah. One final thought before we talk about our ranking system.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, it just like began to escape my brain. Wow. Never. Oh, yeah. This is what it is. I feel like the whole idea of the anger management class was just like the obvious thing we can do based off this property for a funny animated movie. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he has to go to anger management because he's angry all the time. That's the point. And I feel like that there were too many scenes like that were involved in that. And like, I get that like they didn't really want or even need to like have that work, you know what I mean, on him, like have those classes actually mean or do anything. They were just set dressing for a lot of stuff, but I felt like there was too much of them. I don't know. And at the same time, too, I'm just going to throw this out there. He left the village, so why is he beholden to their laws? That's the libertarian, the 1% of me that's libertarian.
Yeah.
Peeks on and be like, what the hell? He doesn't live here. Why are you sentencing him to something? He doesn't live here.
Also, I want to go back to the. I just remembered now. Chuck is actually another reason why he's cool is because he stole money from the police.
That's fair.
He gave it to the community. Like that's based as hell. I mean, don't do that. Don't steal money from police. Don't rob police.
Based is in like
give it away to your community.
Like the opposite of acidic. You know what I mean? But they're both bad. Yeah. You can't have too much base and you can't have too much acid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was at a bar too. Just funny. It was just like just paid for rounds of drinks. No, I did not like that Roadrunner ass person. Here on the Sonic Movie Show, we hate that Roadrunner ass person. At least half of us do. We review video game movies, and hey, we like the idea of ranking them, but we don't really want to have to like fine grain say this movie is above this one and blah blah blah, because that can get very tedious. We do that on the Chronicles of Diesel, and it's tough to remember movies we watched 2-3 years ago in relation.
And every time I look at the list, I'm like, I don't know if I even agree with this list anymore. Just like going through it in my head again.
In a couple years, marathon them all, write down notes, and do one more re-review list. An idea. Didn't
we say we were gonna, like, next time we do it, we were gonna do where we just each bring our own list? Because I know like we compromised obviously for each episode on some things, but so I guess that would count.
Let's listen to the end of that episode because I think we talked about it on the episode. I hope.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember everything we said. Here on the Sonic Movie Show, we don't actually rank in terms of individual movies. Instead, we give them a letter grade. And so it's tiers of movies. So, like, you know, it's all a blob, which is where in the tier. To kind of iterate, here we have the previous movies that we've reviewed besides the one we've done this season on the Sonic Movie Show. We have S and then A through F as our different letter grade tiers. I'll go from the bottom, and I'll go up, because every now and then we go from the bottom and we go work up. I'll explain briefly what each of these letter grades means. F is basically the actually offensive movies. This is unacceptable. Also just a really bad movie. Postal's the only one in here.
Should never have been made, and that's not even as like saying it in like a joking way. Like legitimately, why?
Yeah, this was just...
I'm embarrassed for humans that this exists.
Exactly. Exactly. The E tier are just really bad movies. They're not obviously offensive, but these are movies that seem to not understand what the video game that they're based off is about at all. And they're just making a movie and just trying to cash in potentially on the franchise.
I also think part of that is just that it's not a good film. Like even if you just ignore the video game aspect of it, because there's some movies that we have higher up that aren't necessarily so tied in with the games. But yeah, that tier is just like bad movies, the ones that you can find on Amazon Prime if you like go in like the
and you
free
dig.
section and you really dig for it. That level of quality.
The E tier are films that are boring. There's more bad in them than there is good, but there's something there. And oftentimes it's an idea that's squandered, or it's an idea that feels like it came out of nowhere, and it's like, all right. Assassin's Creed is our big typical D tier movie because they had a good premise, but they didn't do anything with it, and it felt weird with what they did do. The Doom movie we alluded to earlier being not quite what we feel like the Doom movie should have been. The Warcraft movie, which we mentioned, came out the same year as the Angry Birds movie, was a very pretty wallpaper we watched move. Not much of a story there. Very boring films. The C tier are movies that are, they're, I guess, in between if we really want to be technical. But these are movies that have good things in them, to be sure, and have some negative qualities in them. That's a very, I don't know, freshman film critique analysis type of statement there. But these are films where I'm like, yeah, I really liked the action scenes in Advent Children, but man, that story sucked, and they used 4 colors in the whole movie. It felt like, wow, most of these Resident Evil movies are just okay zombie movies, and they don't connect to each other all that well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The Lara Croft Tomb Raider movie starring Angelina Jolie had some fun moments to them, but wow,
there's some action scenes in there, but
very they have good things and they have bad things. The B tier movies are like, hey, this is pretty good. All things considered,
solid.
We grade on a curve here for the Sonic movie show. So when you get movies like the original Mortal Kombat, the original Resident Evil, the original Silent Hill, DOA Dead or Alive, being movies that are like, hey, this is fun for what it is. This isn't great, but this is fun. And you know what? I'm surprised at how much of the video game that they took to heart. DOA Dead or Alive was such a wow, this movie is goofy as fuck. And they really took the premise of a bunch of hot girls fighting on a beach island in a competition tournament and didn't make it embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like, we assumed that movie was going to be embarrassing. I assumed Mortal Kombat was going to be embarrassing. I assumed Resident Evil was actually I thought Resident Evil was going to be pretty good. But you know what I mean? Like, I thought, your expectations are low, but then they're like, oh, this is pretty good. A-tier films are great movies. And as far as video game movies go, they are pretty much as good as you can expect them to be. The Sonic the Hedgehog film, the old Street Fighter film, both Mario Brothers film and the Uncharted film are good examples of A-tier films in our opinion. These are fun movies. They either have a wacky, goofy sense of style. They're like, yeah, I don't care if there's any flaws in this movie. I like seeing Jean-Claude Van Damme talk in a speech when he's clearly high on cocaine in real life. You know what I mean? I like seeing, Dwayne The Rock Johnson think he needs to fight his best friend who is a silverback albino gorilla who's, the size of a building. The Uncharted movie with Tom Holland, wow, that was supposed to be a train wreck, no pun intended, and it's not. This is a good movie. A-tier films.
I actually believed that he was young Drake.
Yeah.
And not the rapper, but the character.
The young Nathan Drake, yes. S-tier films are A-tier films with a little bit extra in them. These are only 3 movies we have in here, and that's Detective Pikachu, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, and Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But these are movies that are like, wow, we thought A-tier was as good as you can get, but there's something in this where it's like
secret
a
sauce.
Gold star on top of that A. You know what I mean?
It's like bacon on a cheeseburger. Yeah. Like, wow, didn't know you can add more flavors to this.
I would recommend this movie to people that hate video games. You know what I mean? This is a fun movie.
Honestly.
If you hate video games, you will still like these 3 movies. Maybe you'll like some in the A tier. Maybe if you're morbidly curious about the Super Mario Brothers movie from the 90s, you know what I mean? But still, S tier films are like, hey, these are the Sonic frontiers of video game movies.
Yeah, and they're usually like well-made films too. I think we need to like make sure we say that too, because like in the A tier, there is some that were maybe not the best made films, but they pass because they're just fun, funny, entertainment,
and they get the video game.
When S tier, there's like, I think a part of the secret sauce. I don't want to say all of the secret sauce, but part of that secret sauce is like, oh, these movies are well made. Like The Prince of Persia is a well shot film with great cinematography, great acting, and also is tied to the games in a very good way. So
yeah,
great music, all that.
Yeah. Had Jake Gyllenhaal in it. How tall is Jake Gyllenhaal?
Our boy Jake.
You know what I mean? We'll never know. They made a whole song about it, and we'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
Now
I feel like he's probably like 6'2", if I had to guess.
Maybe 5'5". That's pretty good height for
he
him.
might actually he's probably like one of those like 5'11" tall kings.
But he actually looks taller, is what you're saying?
Yeah, but he's like probably. He's like
I get that a
5'11".
lot. People think I'm often like 6 foot. I have to remind them, no, I'm just a humble Tom Cruise 5'5" height. You know what I mean? It's okay. I don't need to be called a short king. King is fine enough. Movies that we reviewed this season include...
He is 5'11". I fucking called it. I knew. I'm like, he passes for 6 foot, but like, I know that man 5'11".
He passes for 1 inch taller than what he actually is. We reviewed this season on the Sonic Movie Show the 2018 film Tomb Raider. We reviewed Resident Evil Degeneration, Tekken Blood Vengeance, Mortal Kombat Legends, Scorpion's Revenge, Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15, Ratchet and Clank, Persona 3 the movie number 2, Midsummer Night's Dream, Dead Space Downfall, and Ni no Kuni. After Angry Birds, we have Oni Chanbara the movie Vortex, or Chanbara Beauty the movie Vortex.
It's crazy. We're at the
how you want to call
finish line.
And
That's
Corpse
crazy.
Party. Those are the last 2 movies we need to do. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, which we highly recommend you do for this episode of the Sonic Movie Show, because we have our visual aids here. If you missed out, you got to see all those movies we talked about in their different lettered tiers. There's a visual for those. And we have our pick. So, like Devin mentioned, on episode 152, 153-ish, we did our video game movie fantasy draft. It wasn't really a fantasy draft because, like, it's our opinions. But we drafted movies, and from a list, some randomly chosen in terms of what's available to pick from, and some I selected that are more prime movies, like Angry Birds was one of those, that was an option to pick. There were movies that were not picked at all. And, I think it was 2/3 of the movies were, picked, so to speak, to get to where we are at. Or maybe it was half. I don't remember.
I think there was at least 6 left over. So I think there was...
Yeah, okay. So it was
18.
2/3.
I think it was 18, and we picked 12 in total.
Okay.
So.
Okay, that's fair. And yeah, so basically, we together give a film a letter grade, and then there is a point value associated with this. On the right-hand side of the screen, I pointed to the left because I'm facing. I should probably just mirror this so it's easy for me to actually point right when I mean right. Because that's what a mirror would be. Or if I was facing...
I never remember...
If
I'm this direct. This would be me, right?
That's your right on the screen, at the very least.
He's my left IRL, but yeah.
Because here's how we should do it. Because there's 2 ways of looking at it. Are you either looking in a mirror, or are you looking at a person? Is a person looking at you, or is a mirror looking at you? Because a mirror sees the reverse. The person sees the reverse. The mirror sees the same. You know what I mean? And if we want our audience to think we're talking to them, then we should maybe not have it mirrored. Well, you have to remember,
Whatever.
Discord also will automatically mirror what's actually being shown.
Yeah.
Which is annoying, because it screwed up this when we were first starting to do this, where I was freaking out. Inside baseball there. S-ranked movies get you 6 points. A gets you 5. We go down point by point. F gets you 0. Now, we also did a counter pick, as you can see here on the YouTube version. I picked a movie on Devin's list. Devin picked a movie on my list. My movie that I picked off his list was the Angry Birds movie, where I think the movie's going to be bad. He also thinks my upcoming movie, Oni Chanbara, the movie Vortex, is going to be bad. If correct, then that person gets points. I don't lose points if Oni Chanbara, the movie Vortex, is bad. Devin doesn't lose points if we agree that Angry Birds is bad. It's just whether or not there's extra points given. If it's good, then I'm going to lose some points. And if it's a C, then I just net with I don't get anything. But yes, there's a letter grade. There is a decimal at the bottom for our total points. That is because we pull up the Rotten Tomatoes user score. We don't have anything against critics, but we feel like users generally rate higher, and it's more fun to have not 10%.
It's also, I feel like it's a way for us to see, like, because we've done ones where we're like, oh, we really liked this movie. Oh wow, people didn't. So it's kind of cool to see, like, maybe with a quick way to see if maybe we're too high or too low on a film. Yeah, it's just more fun too that way.
Yeah, for sure. I got fucked over because the second Persona 3 movie doesn't have an audience score at all. Not a 0. It's just nothing. And so
the third one was so good that people just didn't watch the second.
Yeah, apparently.
No one wanted to rate the second, I guess.
Absolutely. And, you know, I am technically in the lead, but I'm one movie ahead. So Devin's Angry Birds movie is going to get a letter grade here. Why don't you go first, because this is your movie. What do you think?
Yeah. Just like, it helps, too, that we always recap, like, examples of other video game movies we've watched.
Helps us.
Of that curve that we have. And while we had critiques of this film, and I had my critiques, and I think the biggest critique is like that first act, second act kind of could have just either been morphed into one, or maybe one part should have been cut out. At least it moves quick through those parts. We didn't find it just bad, or at least I didn't find it bad. And I don't know, like, my gut is really just feeling like this is an obvious C. Like, I feel like it's fine. It has a lot more video game elements than the other video game movies we've had on this list, so I think that gives it some points. Negative points from it would be, just like the plot, maybe some of the characters or whatever, some of the dialogue was whatever. But it was a at least visually made film. I liked the animation. The voice acting was all good, even if the dialogue was maybe not, didn't like it or whatever, but like no one was phoning it in. And we've seen a lot of animated movies and video game movies in general where people are clearly phoning it in or just getting that check. More power to them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, for me, I feel like it's just a C. I feel like what would have made it a B is if, like, I found more parts funny. Maybe it was the first and second act were more gelled together. So I think it's close to almost a B, but it's just missing on those marks, I think, to drop it down to the C for me. But I think it's one of our stronger Cs. I don't want to say the best C, but one of our stronger Cs, I think.
Gotcha. I'm surprised you're not higher up. I thought you were going to try to fight for it to be a B. I also think this is a C. I feel like this is the perfect example of a C. I think aggressively fine was how I put it at the beginning of the show. And I feel like that is a C all the way down, to the point where I hesitated to use the word fine when describing our C tier earlier, because I wanted to save that for how I talked about this movie. But yes, C tier films are just fine video game movies, because again, we grade on a curve. You know, a decently good video game movie might just be an okay movie in general. You know what I mean? I think it's a C. I feel like the story and plot are two different things. Both are bad in this film. You know, there's two different movies going on here, or two potentially different movies that could have happened here instead. Instead, it was like them wanting to do both, and it didn't really succeed at either. Characterization pretty poor all the way down. Animation goes, this is a very typical Pixar-like animation. 2016, that's the highlight of this style, in my opinion, of just everyone doing it. Illumination is Pixar 2 in terms of the visual style, and this is just that again, you know. There's a little bit of that old DreamWorks face in here with some characters, even though it's Sony.
For sure.
Yeah, but still, it's not an ugly film. It's just very bland, and there were some moments I actually found funny. And I don't think it having negatives and me thinking it's overall fine should somehow be like a D or an E because of it. Even though I don't have too many good things to say about it, I don't feel like the bad things are the only things as well, if that makes sense. So I'm also in agreement with you on it being a C film, which means I gain nothing, but you gain 3 points from this.
Mm-hmm. I don't know
There
how
we
much
go.
points I'm at. My Excel sheet never updates
Oh,
properly or
well, it
whatever.
never updates
Yeah.
because I never send an updated version.
Oh, okay.
Because remember, this what's being displayed on here is my local copy, and I don't end up putting.
Yeah.
I
I
always
don't even
forget to
remember how
throw
much you
it.
have from
Well,
Nino
I will
Kuniya.
update us right now after giving you your points. I am sitting at 19.1 or point 10, and you, Devin, are sitting at 18.26. We are less than 1 point
Okay.
apart, but you still
Wow.
have to put in your Rotten Tomatoes percentage points. So we take that
Yeah.
percentage, and it's a decimal that gets added in. I don't think we mentioned that part. So Devin's going to look
Yeah.
up what the Rotten Tomatoes user score is. I will trust him
Yeah.
implicitly. I trusted him when he said that Persona 3, the movie number 2, Midsummer Night's Dream, has
Hey,
no
I sent
points.
you the link.
I
I'm always
trusted
like,
him,
hey, check it on your
and
end.
he better not fuck me over again by saying it's a 99 or something. What
So
is
it says 46%, which is 3% higher than
Really?
the tomato meter. 46, so 0.46.
Wow, so you're at 18.72.
Ooh, this is good. This might be a come down to the decimals.
Right?
We'll see.
Did I do that right? Yes. 26. Hey Siri, what's 26 plus 46?
26 plus 46 is 72.
Yes, I was right. Okay. All right. I am still in the lead by 29 percentage points. 0.29.
0.29.
Yes, 0.29. Wow. Okay.
That's crazy.
This comes down to
It's gonna be
our last two movies, but I'm
man.
nervous because I think both movies are not going to be good.
Yeah,
And you're going to get points
it's-
off of my movie not being good. That's what I'm thinking.
I know. A couple episodes ago, I was saying I was nervous about. I really needed Dead Space to be high, and I got lucky with the B there. The Nino Kuni, we put that as a
B.
What did we put that?
And you were
B, right?
I should, if I wanted to really, really win, I should have when you said it in S rank, been like, you know what, you're right, it is an S rank, and then got that point. No, we settled on B.
No,
because it's a
I remember
fair
being
grade for
like,
it.
I feel like you had a really good like top heavy draft, and
Oh,
like
yeah. The only
the only ones I was confident in going in were Resident Evil, which wound up being a C. I would say is a stinker for a top pick. Mortal
Yes.
Kombat was surprisingly good because I heard good things going into that one. And Ratchet and Clank, really, what my draft should have been Dead Space, probably honestly first, or Mortal Kombat. But I think once we like rank them all, we should see like what would have been the perfect board, like perfect draft if everything fell.
Sure.
Just because I'm curious, but yeah, I'm feeling a little bit better now. I had it like I was really nervous from Kingsglaive to onward. Honestly, after that, I was like, and then once I had that C at the beginning, I'm like, fuck, this might cost me. It still might cost me, but I'm feeling a lot better now that I got Angry Birds accomplished what I was
The
hoping.
bare
it accomplished.
minimum.
When I was like, if I can get a C out of Angry Birds this late in the draft, that's huge.
Right now,
So-
your letter grades are a palindrome: C, B, D, B, C. So
I mean, I'll take even.
what will you'll get for
yeah.
Corpse Party? We won't know. What will I get
Yeah.
for Oni Chambara, the movie Vortex, otherwise known as Chambara Beauty, the movie Vortex? We won't know.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we'll eventually know because eventually we'll do these movies.
I mean, I'm honestly hoping that both of
Have to
these
find
films
these movies.
are Dead or Alive like things where like they're just
Same.
known that they're actually just gems of just
And
awesome.
knowing that
goofy
Oni
shit.
Chambara, all I know because like there's been a few of those video games. There's one on the Wii, but I know there's like two either on PS3 that got PS4 ports or just two on PS4 that have been on PlayStation Plus or even PlayStation Now back in the day, and I've downloaded them, never touched them. And the key art for those is always busty bikini girl with a samurai sword and a cowboy hat. And I'm like, that could be DOA Dead or Alive. You know what I mean?
I feel like
For movie?
that's very volatile though. So I think that's
It could be really,
I think it's either
really
going to be
embarrassing or it could
Yeah.
be, it could be fun.
But hey, for a last pick, that's what you got to do. You got to pick the.
Absolutely.
If this
I
was
think that
fantasy
was my
football,
wild
you
card.
get the flyer.
Yeah.
You get your
Yeah.
wild card. You put a flyer
knows?
on a rookie.
Maybe
you know?
that'll be an S rank and we'll be like
That'd be crazy.
the greatest video game movie of all time, and you've
all
never
time.
seen it.
And-
You know, we could pivot into a very
never seen it.
clickbaity YouTube channel. Clip this. We're gonna and actually clip this time when I say clip this, because Devin forgot one time and couldn't find it. Clip this.
Yeah.
We could pivot this YouTube channel into being a very clickbaity, the top 10 things about Sonic the Hedgehog you didn't know. And then we can also do, this is the greatest video game movie of all time and you've never even heard of it. And just throw, busty samurai cowboy lady on there. You know what I mean? And people be like, what the fuck is this?
And pick, like, the most embarrassing scene. Even if the movie's good, let's say, just pick, like, the most awkward scene possible and be like,
absolutely.
This scene blew us away. This scene just blew us away.
Absolutely. Remember when we did our rank the Sonic characters, and we made a tier list on the Sonic characters, and the thumbnail was not what we actually did? There was a couple things that were close, but there was things that were like, we put Shadow at like D or C in the thumbnail. You know what I mean? That type of thing where like, the Nino Kuni
we got a lot of likes on our we got a lot of likes on our clip of Rouge the Bat where we were like, Rouge the Bat is perfect. Even though we were mostly memeing with that, people are like, yeah, I agree. Like, of course
you agree.
You're right.
Yeah,
base.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Well, hey, you know what? This was a fun episode of the Sonic Movie Show. If you want to watch more, perhaps, well, you're probably already in a spot with the rest of our episodes. But we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Audible, at Sonic Movie Show, Twitter, I almost said Tumblr again, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, at Sonic Movie Show. I think that's all of them.
Yeah.
I think that's all of them. I'm on Twitter at Ethan Absolutely. Devin's on Twitter at CressonaFun. I made this background in a haste today. It's not my best work. And I forgot my rule of not having a dark colored background because the at Sonic Movie Show is illegible because it's written in black. So, like, if you can maybe make out how it's spelled, but it's just at Sonic Movie Show. I'm sorry. I think at this point right now, it's going into a later part. You can maybe see it just starts to pan away into black again. Never mind. You'll see it when you edit some clips, Devin, with this background. I was like, what's the color of the birds and their general shapes? And I just threw this shit together. Not my best work, but we're going to see you next time for a regular episode of the Sonic Movie Show. And as always, remember, you know what? It's okay to be angry sometimes.